before I got certified for adult corrections, they just throw you some keys and some cuffs and say, go to work. And you have nothing else on the compound. And their officer, inmate, was supposed to be out at that time, and they put him on a fence to search him, and he pulled a shank and stabbed the sergeant about 3 or 4 times in the gut.
You know who made it. 10-4,
You're listening to Responder Chronicles with your host, Brian Dita. And my co-host is Mason Dita. He is my son. Mason, you want to say anything?
Hi, hello.
We are first responders, firefighters. We've been doing it for a few years now, and we thought, let's get these stories out here for the public to hear. Many people don't realize some of the things we see. Some of it can be pretty bad, but a lot of it can be very comical. Goal of doing this Responder Chronicles is to catalog, share the stories of people who are involved in whether it's fire, EMS, police, correctional officer, and I know we're even going to get some war stories from maybe some soldiers that they just want to share out there. My main goal is to educate people and try to get people to go in this field. Our country is a great country, and we need people who will step up when nobody else. A lot of people say, well, why do you do volunteer firefighter? You put yourself on the line. I think if I'm going to put my life on the line, I want to get paid for it. Well, yeah, getting paid would be nice, but you know what? Somebody's got to do it. And also, it's the most fun I've ever had in my life. So today we have a man that I've known for several years. His name is Thomas. We're not going to say his last name or the agency that he works for, but he has been working for many years. So at this time, I'd like to introduce my friend, Thomas. Thomas?
How you doing?
I'm doing good. And Thomas, what do you do for a living?
I'm a correctional officer in the state of Florida. I've worked in the state side and I worked in county.
All right. And so now you work for the state side, but you also worked for a prison, didn't you?
Correct.
A private prison.
Yes.
Now, how many total years do you think you've had in the correctional system?
If you add my time at DJJ, about 16, 17.
I forgot you did DJJ. And for those of you who may not know, DJJ is the Division of Juvenile Justice. So you get everybody under the age of 18, right?
They can be older. It just depends. We've had them come in as old as 28 years old from a juvenile warrant that they ran on.
Wow. Okay. And so the laws kind of apply a little differently there. Now, what got you into corrections?
Job security.
Because there's always going to be
There's
somebody
always
in
somebody.
Okay. Now, my mom was a correction officer, and so was my stepdad for several years. They actually worked at Rikers Island in New York. So anybody its fame is well known. And so she had told me, why don't you become a correction officer? And I said, Mom, if I'm going to deal with bad guys, I'd rather deal with them out there when I run into them occasionally and not be surrounded by them.
Right.
So I think it takes a special person who wants to do corrections, I would guess. All right?
Yeah, dealing with inmates is like dealing with your kids, just on a different level.
Just on a totally different level. All right, now, you had some, weren't you a volunteer firefighter or EMS or
When
something?
I was 18 until I moved out of the district that I
Okay.
was in, and I just didn't have time for it.
Did I give you a taste for first responder, law
Yeah, it did.
enforcement? Yeah. Okay. Well, we have a few questions here, and Mason's going to jump in here and there. So, what is the first, whether it was DJJ, the private prison, or what is it, county, state?
Yes.
Yeah, corrections. What was the first thing that you ever came across and you realized, wow, this is real. This is a little kind of caught you by surprise.
Probably before I got certified for adult corrections, they just throw you some keys and some cuffs and say, go to work. And you have nothing else on the compound. And their officer, inmate, was out, wasn't supposed to be out at that time, and they put him on a fence to search him, and he pulled a shank and stabbed the sergeant about 3 or 4 times in the gut. And they had to get taken out pretty quick and had emergency surgery. They didn't have time to do lipo or anything. They just cut him open straight down.
Wow. Now, shank is...
It's a homemade knife, if you want to call it that.
Okay.
Any piece of metal that's been sharpened down by concrete or steel, other steel or whatever.
Now, let me guess. They get metal from somewhere in the prison.
No, it's all over.
It's all over. You can't really
Kitchen,
keep it out.
Food service, anywhere.
And then
off a chair, off a desk in an education building.
And they have time. That's all they got.
They
in
got
prison.
nothing but time. They got more time than we do.
And so they figure out ways to improvise weapons.
Weapons, keys, everything. They will study your keys hanging on your chain and then try to duplicate them themselves and all kinds of stuff.
Oh man, I never even thought about that. So this correctional officer that got stabbed, what, 3 times?
3 or 4 times, yeah.
Yeah. How did he turn out?
They did all right. They came out good, and they came out to work, and they worked once they were healed up 3 or 4 months, and then they decided it wasn't for them no more and quit.
I think if I was stabbed the first time, I'd be like, nope, I'm out of here. So that was the first time, and what with the inmate, what did y'all do? Did you like pepper him, tase him, gang pile him, what?
He got sprayed, and he got hauled out in the ambulance.
So let me ask you this. So got hauled out in an ambulance. So let's just say there was let's just say there was some justice served, I guess.
Yes.
Okay. So that being said, when in these prisons, a correction officer, they don't carry guns, right?
Correct.
They don't carry knives. They don't even carry a stick, do they?
No.
So you're surrounded. Now, I know a lot of the prisons, they work on a pod system where you're in there and you're surrounded by all of these inmates in all of these rooms, but normally they're just kind of walking all around, aren't they?
Pretty much. The prison that I was at, we only had enough staff for 1 officer in the control room for that dorm and 1 on the floor. So there's 6 quads to a dorm, and the big dorms can hold probably 60, 65 inmates per quad. So you're looking at 360 plus inmates per, and it's just you. So there is nobody else. You have to call for backup. You got to call for help.
So if anything goes south, you just hope somebody in the control room. I mean, it's just you.
It's just you. You got your body alarm, you got your radio, your cuffs, and you have some OC spray, and that's it.
Now, do some of the inmates, they don't want any part of being, and they just want to do their time and get out. So they're kind of they'll be there to kind of watch your back a lot of times, won't they? Some of them.
The inmates that I had less problems with were lifers. The ones who were in there, they call them jits, young inmates that only have 5 years or less. You get a whole lot more problems out of those. Those are the ones you really got to pay more. And you got to pay attention to all of them, but those are the ones that generally gave me the most problems.
All right. Well, all right. You got anything, Mason?
I don't have anything pulled up yet.
All right. Well, tell us a story in which it was one of the most intense times. It wasn't kind of like this is real. This is like you were in fear of your life. Ever.
It depends. I've only had 1 inmate try to attack me, and that was just a few months ago. And it was this is in county jail. He was picked up on some driving without a license, I believe is what it was, or something. Anyways, he had an immigration hold, so he's from Jamaica. And I tried to pull an inmate out of the cell that was in there with him for chest pain to send him to medical. And this inmate refused all verbal commands and tried to come out of his cell at me. So I pushed him back against the wall. He came at me again, and then I gassed him with like half a can of OC spray. Then he still came at me again. So he got slammed pretty good. and then we fought for a little while before somebody else got there, and then we tased them.
So, out of all these years, you've had one person
Just one.
just try to take you on. Now, you know me. I'm like 5'4". I weigh the most I've ever weighed now, about 170 pounds. And I'm sure these inmates will look at me like, oh, he's easy, you know? But you, how big are you?
I'm about 300 pounds, about 5'11", 6 foot.
Yeah, I would just bounce right off of you, you know? And so with that, this dude thought, you know, maybe I can take him then, right?
Pretty much. He's probably 6 foot, 150 pounds, soaking wet.
That wasn't going to work well.
Yeah.
Now, this OC spray, is it kind of like pepper spray, mace?
It's
what is it?
a lot stronger than pepper spray. It's made from the oils out of like cayenne pepper or any hot peppers, really. They just extract all the oils out of it. I don't know.
But it's hot. It's meant to
very hot.
It's to just kind of disable them. Where
Yeah, it's 10% OC. So like bear spray, for an example, is only 2% OC.
So you're spraying on these guys stuff that's stronger than
Just to give you an idea.
Yeah, that's. Well, I mean, if you're in there by yourself, you know, you want something. Now, have you had to use that OC spray quite a bit over your career?
Oh yeah, a lot.
And so let me ask you this, because I know you told me a story where it doesn't even affect you that much anymore.
No, really, you get used to it. You might cough a little bit, but it ain't bad. To me, it ain't bad. I've worked the whole shift with it all over my arms and come home and you can touch my arms and they still be hot.
Now, have you ever got? Now his wife is here listening. Has he ever brought anything home that had OC spray on it and you got into it a little bit?
No.
No? Okay. Well, I'm also a mailman. For those of you who don't know, that's why I'm a volunteer firefighter. We get pepper spray in a little can, right? It's dog spray. They want us to carry it. Well, our vehicles get hot in the summer, like really, really hot. And that stuff would kind of start seeping out of there. Several years ago, my wife went with me somewhere, and that spray had kind of leaked out around the cup holder. And so she went and got something to drink out of the cup holder, and I wasn't thinking about it. And she had like an itch around her eye, so she started scratching around her eye. And the next thing I know, she's there tearing up, and she's like, "What is wrong?" And I went, "Oh, you got into the dog spray." So now you're telling me that's you've been around this stuff so much, it doesn't even really affect
No,
you.
I just take a paper towel, wipe it off my forehead or something. If it gets on me from overspray or something, I just keep working.
But I bet you the inmates are like, "No."
Yeah. We had that inmate that tried to come out of the cell and tap me. When I got done spraying him, we got him under control and got him to decontamination shower, which is just strictly cold water for decontamination for 3 to 5 minutes. Whenever he came out and we put him in the holding cell to see medical, he immediately stuck his whole head in the toilet because he was on fire still.
That's bad. That is. And how long does it normally last on them?
It depends. If you stay out of the water, get in the water, get it rinsed off quickly, and stay out 30 minutes, 40 minutes. But if you keep going in the water, it's going to keep reactivating.
So, okay. All right. I think Mason's got a question for you now.
You want me to know?
Sure.
Are there gangs in the prisons that you work at? And if so, how active are they?
In the prison, yes, they're very active. They pretty much control the inmates' population. Like, for an example, whenever they come in, you start, especially in the rec yard, you'll see the whites go this way, the Latinos go this way, the black people go over here. That's just them separating into their gangs. For example, Aryan Brotherhoods, Unforgivens. And then you got the GDs, which is Gangster Disciples, MS-13s, Latin Kings.
Because these guys are being, let's say Florida, they're being sent from all over the place,
Oh,
right?
yeah. They're from all over the place. So you have them from Miami, in the Panhandle, people from the Panhandle, down Central Florida, all over the place. You even got the one of the newest gangs is the Outcast, and those are your LGBTQ inmates, and they are just as dangerous, if not more dangerous, as some of the other ones that's been around for a long time.
Wow. So we're basically in a little town here in Florida, and you got that added thing to deal with.
Right.
And it seems like it's very racially segregated.
They do that on their own, but yes.
Okay. I guess that stuff doesn't just, transfer over, does it,
Latin Kings, they don't play around with the homosexual stuff, and they're very, very, very structured. Like there was one inmate, real old inmate in a wheelchair, who was one of their leaders, and he was like untouchable. And he would put a hit on somebody just from sitting in that chair.
Oh my goodness.
And this thing, you got stabbing on your hands because it's just how it is.
All right. You got another one?
Yeah. So, what are some what's your typical day look like whenever you get ready in the morning, and what are your responsibilities throughout the day there?
Care, custody, and control. First when you get there, they're always locked down. You're gonna get there and do your head count. Make sure what your pass on information from the night before night shift says is the correct numbers and correct count. Know what everybody's present counted for, and then once count clears, they'll unlock the cells. In the prison setting, we had programs. So if they had a call out, whether it be medical programs, mental health, or classification, we had a TV scrolling with their names and stuff on it. So it's their responsibility to get out. For us, if they don't show up, then we got to go find them and get them and make sure they get there. And if I have to come find you and get you, I'm going to tear your cell up, write you a DR, and I'm going to tear everybody's cell up around you because they're going to learn to police themselves.
Got it. I got it. So when you say tear up cell, you going in there, you're searching.
Search it for anything and everything. Anything that's out of its original form. I don't care if it's a little piece of newspaper article that you wanted to save. If it's not in its full original form, then it's been altered. It's contraband. And it's nuisance contraband, but it gets the point across.
Yeah. If you don't behave, I'm going to come in here and tear everything up.
Pretty much.
All right. Thomas, tell us a hilarious story. Because, look, I know there's weird stuff. There's weird stuff out here out of, what do you call it? Supervised population. But tell me, that you see weird stuff all the time, don't you?
Oh, yeah.
Like, what in the world did I just see? Give me a story. I don't care if you got two, because I know you've called me and said, "Hey, listen to this." So I got a couple right off the top of my mind that when you told me, my mouth just fell open. I go, "What in the world?" So come on, lay some on us.
A lot of it is like nasty stuff, but
this is what it's for, so people can hear what's going on.
So you got the Prison Rape Elimination Act, which is a federal thing. So in case most people don't know, an inmate cannot consent nor give consent for any sexual acts or intercourse. Mm-hmm. It happens all the time. Doing your rounds and you walk by and there's two guys on the bunk. Mm. So then they get separated, secure the scene, treat it just like a crime scene. They get full medical exams, and then they get separated, housed alone in confinement until that's probably the nastiest and thing you ever come across besides bloodbaths and stuff.
Wait, bloodbaths?
They have fights and inmates killing inmates.
So you've seen where inmates have killed somebody else?
Oh yeah.
And is it something that's normally planned? I mean, they know about when to do this? Sometimes it's spontaneous. For an example, in the confinement unit, there was two inmates that were housed together, and one inmate was bragging to the other inmate about how much little kids liked him, and he was sexual battery charges,
got him life in prison along with raping animals and other things. And the cellie told him he didn't want to hear it. He kept talking about it. So his cellie waited till he went to sleep, took a sheet, and strangled him to death. Waited 30 minutes to tell us.
He wanted to make sure he was
He
dead.
wanted to make sure he was dead. And when Florida Department of Law Enforcement and the IG office and everybody got there, he was quick to admit everything. He was proud of it. He gives us one less chomo to worry about. A chomo is prison slang for
Child molester.
child molesters, rapists, things like that.
Well, I don't. And, well, I'm not going to say anything before I get myself in trouble. I know one time you called me about there was it a lady? Do they house ladies over where you're at?
Yes, county jail.
Yeah, so you got, is it I mean, I know it's separated, but do you have to cross over to that area sometimes?
I very rarely. Only time I go over there is if there's a fight or some kind of emergency or something and they're calling for extra help.
Because I think one time you called me and you said there was
There was
a naked chick.
Yeah.
I was like, what?
One of them was naked. They were in a cell together and they were fighting. And I was the first one over there. And as I was going up the stairs, I kept telling them, stop fighting, stop fighting. They didn't separate. They kept going. So they both got gassed pretty good. And then they stopped immediately.
I'm sure they did. I'm sure
Everything was on fire. And gravity runs downhill.
And I'm sure the naked one had the worst end of it.
Correct.
Yes. Okay. You got any right here, Mason?
What was your training like to become a correctional officer?
In Florida, it's about 420 to 450 hours. I don't remember exactly. The academy where I went, they didn't play around. It was 100% force, because if you can't defend yourself in a controlled environment, then there's no way you can control yourself in an uncontrolled environment. Defend yourself. So yeah, we did like Red Man, where you go through all the defensive tactics and you learn everything you possibly can. Then they put you in pads, and all of your instructors are inmates, and you have to do like 25 burpees, 25 sit-ups, push-ups, jumping jacks, and then you start the fight. They give you a scenario, and then you start the fight. So you're wore out as if you were running from one dorm all the way across the compound to another. And then you don't stop until your instructors are on the ground and in hand restraints.
And your instructors are inmates.
Your instructor is an inmate, and that's your final test. Outside of that, the firing range, you go through everything like regular law enforcement, whether it's defensive tactics, all your high liabilities like firearms, defensive tactics. You're going to get sprayed with OC. Tasers, that's an agency thing, so you got to get certified through your agency, unless you're going to be a law enforcement officer on the road. Then you'll get it during the academy.
Now, I don't know about where you're at, because you're with a county department now. Does that county department make everybody go through corrections first and then put them on the road if they wanted that, or do they hire them straight for the road?
Where I'm working at is under the county commissioners, so if you want to go on the road, then you get to reapply with the sheriff's office. But yes, they will put you, if you want the crossover, I think it's 2 or 3 months of extra training at the academy, mainly just going through for high liability. I think it's just the driving and a bunch of laws.
No, yeah.
There's a lot more to it than in corrections when it comes to laws. For us, for just a quick example, for us, once you're in custody and you're in jail or prison, we don't search and seizure. Your Fourth Amendment, we don't have to have a warrant or nothing. We can search you all day long, search your property, search your cell. We don't need nothing. We're on the street. You got to have PC or probable cause, or you got to have a warrant, things like that. So
where, since you're talking about searches, where are some of the most improbable places people will hide something?
they can You'll be surprised. They can take the littlest thing, such as a toothbrush, for an example. If they get a couple batteries together and melt it down and make a screwdriver or mold it to screws and stuff, and they can take them out and put stuff in the light fixtures up in the top of the cells. Or I have found shanks tied to their penises, so they think that because you're stripping them, and they think because they're not facing you that you can't see it. Well, if you do your strip search right, you'll find it every time.
Have they put it in quote unquote cavities before?
I've had drugs like that. Mainly drugs and cell phones.
Cell phones, and obviously cell phones for the obvious reason you don't want them talking to the outside world.
Correct. But now they got tablets and they can send emails.
Yeah, see, that just blows my mind.
It's all about money. Because every email that gets sent, I don't know what it is, 75 cents, $1, and they pay to receive it, pay to send it. I mean, pictures, and they can rent movies, all that stuff with their tablets now. So, but and they can make phone calls through it.
But everything is strictly monitored, right?
Supposed to be.
Supposed to be monitored. Okay. I just don't think that's a good idea, honestly.
Me either. I don't like it. It causes too much problems. So.
Okay. Mason, you have anything else?
Not right at the moment.
Not at the moment. What words of wisdom do you have for anybody who's thinking about going into corrections?
If you're going to do it, go in as a trainee. I mean, if you go in as a trainee, it'll give you a sense of what it's like before you go to the academy. And that way, if it's not for you, then you can back out. If it is for you, then you can go all the way with it. Most and just about every agency that will hire you as a trainee or cadet, that whatever your agency calls it, they will pay you to go to the academy and pay for the academy. So instead of you paying the $3,000 or $4,000, whatever it is, I don't even know right now. It's been a while, but whatever the cost is, they'll pay that and pay you and provide you transportation to travel to and from. So it's a win-win. Benefits are good. You can retire if you go with the state or any agency that has state retirement in Florida. You can retire out at 25 years easy and live decent because you get 85% of your pay versus 65% if you were DMV office or some office job.
Sure. Now, I forgot, how many years with the state program are you in right now? Roughly?
Well, right now I'm about 2 years because I came from the private prison. I did have 8 or 9 years in with DJJ, but due to circumstances at that time, I had to cash it out.
Yeah, I get it. So there's something I did meant to ask. You've been in the private, you've been in the DJJ, now you're with the county, and I think you even did a little bit with the state at one time.
Yeah.
A short little stint. Are they all the same issues with all of them?
They all have their same issues. The big difference between county and state is in county you do have inmates that are there, not at money, but you do have some that are innocent and they have not been found guilty yet. So, and these are also inmates, they might, the most time they can serve in a county if found guilty is 1129. Anything over 11 months, 29 days, they go to prison. So you will be seeing these inmates again out in public, whether they'll be working at a Tom Thumb or working somewhere. So you just have to know and be aware. You will see them again on the street. So,
especially with the county.
Correct. And I've even seen some inmates from prison out on the streets. I have one inmate that I saw not too long ago that finished up a 20-year term or sentence, and I saw him out on the streets, and he remembers me. They can remember us easier than we can remember them because there's so many of them. So you always got to keep your head on the swivel.
So at least in Florida, you're able to carry.
Correct.
So would you highly encourage anybody that's in corrections to carry if they could?
Yes, and once you are in law enforcement, period, whether it's corrections, law enforcement officer, whatever, in Florida, we're all law enforcement, so you do fall under the Florida or the statutes in Florida, and for the federal government, you can carry in all 50 states concealed.
Okay.
I still would encourage you to get your concealed weapons license just because I like guns, and if you have it, you don't have to wait a 3-day hold to purchase a gun.
Yeah, that's one thing about concealed carry that I really do enjoy. Just walk in,
Pay for it, and
pay
walk
for
out with
it, show them your ID, and you're good to go. While everybody
Pretty
else
much.
is just twiddling their thumbs waiting for 3 days.
Yep, and if, ATF or depending on what you're buying or Florida Department of Law Enforcement, sometimes like to drag their feet, and you have some people waiting 6 months.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, well, anything else you want to add? Something at all? Nothing?
Not really. I don't know.
Well, you got more stories because it just ain't coming up to the top of your head right now. Mason, you got anything to add?
What would you say is a public misconception of what you do at the prison, like your job?
Oh, I think that's a great question.
Probably they think we're just glorified babysitters. Plus, we're like behind the scenes. Like you don't see us like you do law enforcement officers and cop cars. So kind of like forgotten about because you're not in the public eye. But everything that law enforcement does on the street, it's the same thing, just in behind the gates, behind the wires. Same problem. Still got drugs coming in. Now we got other problems with drones dropping drugs. I mean, there's problems all the way around with it.
And you're under surveillance 24/7.
Yeah. Plus, you're being monitored by cameras, and they're even starting to audio record us now. So we are under a lot of scrutiny. You get into you just gotta be on your P's and Q's, and just like anything else, whether it's you still have your same problems like in the fire department and stuff. You're gonna have inmates die. You're gonna have to do CPR whether you like them or not. There is no DNR, which is do not resuscitate. There is none of that stuff with inmates. Every inmate, you will work the code as if it was anybody else. So
You can go into surgery with them.
you even if the inmate has to have surgery, you even got to go in the operating room and stand there while they're getting the surgery. I've seen many of them.
So that being said, because they're going to get something's going to happen about 5 minutes from you being off of work. So
Always.
So do they pay overtime?
They do. And time and a half for overtime. Anything over 86 hours is time and a half because we work 12-hour shifts. So I have had paychecks for 2 weeks as high as 160, 170 hours.
Of overtime?
Total.
Total. Okay. Whew. All right. Well, Thomas, thank you for coming in and telling us stories. I know you got more in the back catalog you ain't even thinking of. And we're here from you again. So, again, thank you for listening to Responder Chronicles. And tune in again. We'll have some more stories. Maybe we'll have EMS, fire, or whatever. If they're on the line serving the community, protecting, you'll hear them here. Have a good day.
10 12.